you know, Sanni for.
Sounding like those summer bunnies. Ni mara yangu wa kwanza kufika hapa. Am I lying?
Yeah, you're not like
Louis.
Yeah, see?
No, but
Siku ya ukombozi wa
Africa. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure because you're in that space, so you had to learn that in Swahili.
Yeah, I'm sure Louis doesn't even know it was called Siku ya ukombozi wa Afrika.
No
way. This is Costarian, man.
I'm Costarian, so yeah, Swahili is my first language, so of course. Yes.
I'm telling you, we're Kenyans. Swahili is our language too.
And funny enough, none of us is doing African.
Yeah.
None.
Which is why we must address that.
And you're talking about African Liberation Day. Guys, come on.
Yeah.
Yes. It's all
My
part
hair
of
is
the
African.
The funny thing is that we're talking about African liberation,
Yeah.
African sovereignty,
Yeah.
African dignity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're here in a suit,
Faisal.
English suit, proper English suit, khaki.
Colonization. So now we want to decolonize and
Yes.
see how do we go from here as Africans. How do we, go back to our roots? Not go back to our roots, but move forward with them.
I think it's important to go back to our roots. Because do you think Africans, this generation, we are attached to our roots? Do you think we are connected to our roots besides our pigmentation and how we look and our names?
Faisal, there are so many things that have gone into, one, we can say colonizing Africa. From the Berlin Conference of 1884, where people sat down and decided that they're coming into Africa because it was considered to be, quote unquote, a dark continent. And even with that, we see slave trade, which took place, and most of the people who were being sold into slavery were people of black skin, really people of African descent. So not just in Africa as a continent, but even if you go to America, the people who are African American or black Americans, when you go to Haiti, these are people who are slaves. When you go to the Caribbean, to Guyana and to many other parts, it's people of African descent who came from Africa in those days, and through one way or another, they got themselves there. But it was through the slave trade, it was through seeing Africans as people who are less, one, because of their skin color, two, because of our culture. When the Europeans sat down in the Berlin Conference in 1884, they were calling Africa the dark continent, and not just dark because of the color, but dark because they thought that our ideas were backward.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask that. Was it dark because of our color? But I remember that conference. It was about because of the resources that were untapped.
Yeah.
So that's why they were like, they're dark because of, quote unquote, what they regarded as civilization those years. Right, Louis?
Yes. And also the fact that they knew very little about the African continent. So to them, it's dark, it's darkness, because it's stepping into the unknown.
No, but that time we already had explorers coming.
Yeah.
The explorers already come, they had already seen the area, they already surveyed the area, and then they went back with the report.
Faisal, and when we're talking about whether we are colonized, you're talking about our names, how we are dressed today. And going back even from that history, we see that this has come from somewhere where people came and imposed, their way of life, their way of doing things. You're talking about explorers, for example. We are told that a certain white man, and I will not mention, for example, discovered Mount Kenya. But even before this white man was there, of course there were people living in Mount Kenya, and those people,
they didn't go to the mountain, sorry.
No, there's a photo. If you go on social media, these people, the African people, are carrying the mzungu, to go and discover the Mount Kenya.
They didn't go to the mountain, sorry.
Yeah, so the thing is that, yes, it is because of the colonization that even the way we are represented here today, it's because of so many things that we've had to go through for us to, to redo and undo ourselves. So when we celebrate Africa Liberation Day, first of all, I want to separate this from Africa Day. Okay. When people want to lessen what we are celebrating, they call it Africa Day, where we only celebrate, food and culture and clothes and all these type of things. African Liberation Day is much more than that. It is about ukombozi, the way we said, the liberation of the African people. So this started in 1963 when there was the Organization of African Unity, of course, and that's why this is the 61st ALD we are celebrating. And the purpose was not just for people to come and wear vitenge, African print, and eat African food, but it was for the liberation of African people, so that we have our dignity, so that even when we stand on a worldly platform, we are the same. People will not say that these people are slaves or call us niggers or all those sorts of things, that we will be on the same platform. People will not come to explore our resources, etc. So this is the reason why we are celebrating Africa Liberation Day, commemorating it and asking ourselves, where are we 61 years later? Have we achieved the liberation of Africans?
61 years later, where are we? And the last African country to gain independence, I think, was South Sudan in 2011.
We have Western Sahara, which is Africa's last colony, and yes, and it is under occupation. So that is one of the things we fight for. So of course we have Sudan, but we cannot forget to mention Western Sahara, because. Yes, I see that. Yeah, you have.
Where do we stand? What do we say?
Well, our president, we had the president of Western Sahara come here, and it was a big deal, because now after that, we saw all the mishaps that happened, and people came out, the diplomatic community, the international community, and even us as the left community in Kenya, to say that we recognize Western Sahara. Before Kenya gained independence in 1963, we needed people to back us up, to say that Kenya is a country and it's not a British protectorate. So we cannot be the same Africans who now go to occupy another country. So, Sahrawi Libre.
Sefu Sanni has given her opinions and thoughts on that. That is clearly her opinion. Our editorial policy, I mean, or unless it's fact-based, non-controversial, then we can come out and clearly say it. But again, even our country itself, with the diplomatic corps, like, we are still in the grey per se.
So, Faisal, would you say the same about Palestine? Because Palestine is also under occupation, and we are fighting for Palestine to be free.
Yes,
so you cannot say that Palestine is not free. Palestine is not under occupation, because we are seeing the occupation of Palestine, and we are also fighting for the people of Palestine, for 100%. The historical injustices, 100%. For the lack of human rights, for the killing and the maiming that is happening. In the same way that we fight for Palestine, then we fight for Sahrawi, editorial or not, from where we stand from, as the Pan-African Socialist Alliance, as the World March of Women, as the different organizations that are coming in. We fight for these countries. We fight for those who are downtrodden and whose voices cannot be heard, because we want the liberation of Africans, but also the liberation and the end of exploitation of person by person, and of people who feel of imperialism, where certain people feel like they're stronger than others, that they can throw bombs, that they can kill people and they cannot be stopped,
and get away with
that we can give international law and people sit down and say, no, this cannot happen in such a country, but you come and contravene it. So we need to stand up to go
Double
against.
Standards, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Hey, Sefu, you came all guns blazing. Just dressed in a hood, but again, guns blazing. I thought it was going to be an easy show. But anyway, guys, you're talking about African liberation. And, I mean, Sahrawi, Kidogo. Yeah, but I do recognize where you're coming from. I acknowledge and appreciate that. But it's because of the editorial policy and all that, so I'd like to reserve my comments on air on that, right? But again, still talking about independence, right? There is no country that is colonized per se in Africa right now, or under occupation per se. So then a layman would ask, what liberation are we fighting for then? Why should we stress ourselves going out on the streets commemorating this day? What exactly are we doing, Louis?
Yes, and that's a very important question that I know that many people are asking themselves. Why liberation? But to answer that question, I think it's very important for people to start by asking themselves, yes, these countries in Africa are independent. These countries in Africa have flags, they have national anthems, they have names, etc. But these countries, are they able to say that these are the policies they want to make? Are they able to say this is the direction that they want to take, and they will be able to enforce that and have those stands respected internationally? In short, these countries that are said to be independent, are they able to say that they are sovereign in an international scale? I think when we look at that, then we'd see that what we term independence is actually not really independence. We usually say that colonialism ended. But what we have now is neo-colonialism, to mean it is a new form of colonialism. And why is it a new form of colonialism? Because the interests that were at play during the time that we were being colonized are still the same that are controlling our resources, are still the same that are controlling our destiny. So that if you had some mining companies that were exploiting the resources of Africa during the colonial period, the same mining companies are still in the African continent, continuing to exploit the resources and the labor of the African people on a similar scale.
But that's by choice, is it not?
It's not, because we have people who are, these people, they have interests. So for example, if we're having elections, they will come, you know, as a company that is offering something, or they will give some money into the election. Basically, they put their own person there. And yes, and they come and they dictate the rules. I'll be a bit controversial, but I'm going to talk about, for example, the finance bill that we have, or the taxes.
It's a democratic space.
The taxes we have in this country.
We decide who we elect, don't we?
But do we?
Do we? Do we decide the laws? Do we decide who we work with? For example, right now, if we want to work with China as a country, is it something that is looked upon favorably internationally? Or if, for example, we are working with the United States, and now this goes into foreign policy, if we're working with the United States, would it say that, okay, now if you're going to work with us, then you cannot work with these other people? Why would that be a thing? When you look at the Sahel states, for example, look at Traore. He says we do not want the French to come here anymore. Want Russia. For example, but you see now there is negativity towards that. It is foreign policy, and anybody should be able to decide the people that they want to collaborate and work with. Look at Congo, for example. There's an unending war in Congo. Why? Because of cobalt mining that is happening in Congo. Cobalt mining, excuse me, that is used in making cars in one of the biggest manufacturing companies. Cobalt mining that is used in making iPhones. So these people come into Congo, they mine their cobalt. When you look at the working conditions of the people of Congo, it's horrible. They get less than $1, in 2 weeks. They do not even have food. One iPhone costs about, 200,000 Kenya shillings. I think one of those expensive ones that are going for a great price. But look at what is happening in Congo. So whose interests are those? Because the country is not benefiting. Look at Sudan, which there is war in Sudan right now. Why is Sudan warring? It's because of outside influence that is coming in to take the sides of these two leaders, to bring in money that is sponsoring the war at the expense of the citizen who is dying, who is getting raped, who has to flee their country or become an internally displaced person. So this is not truly independent. You have a state of Sudan, but do you have independence? You have a state of Kenya, but can we really say that this is what we fought for when we said that we want to have land that is available, we want to have schools, we want to have education?
Let me just reverse it then. How then would you describe an independent Kenya if this is not independence and democracy?
An independent Kenya would be a Kenya in which all our resources are used for the benefit of the people of Kenya, in which any decision that the people of Kenya take is respected internationally and is carried out without external influence. An independent Kenya without sanctions. An independent Kenya is a Kenya in which the people themselves get to actually decide the direction that they want their country to take. So they live in dignity and they live in sovereignty.
Come on, guys. You have to mean you don't decide the fate of your country and the leaders?
Okay, in the floods that recently happened, have you happened to visit any of the places like Mathare or Mukuru or Kibera? Have you seen that those people who are affected by the floods have been evicted from homes which they built that were makeshift? Have you seen that in the upmarket of Runda that there were floods as well? And people built on riparian land, but there were no evictions in this part of Kenya? What would you call it for these people who have no shelter? The children have no education, they have no food, they cannot go to school, and we are living in a country that is supposed to provide these basic things for the people. Who's supposed to provide? The government is supposed to provide. The government that the people elected. So whichever government.
So we have the choice.
Faisal, you're not getting me. What I'm saying is this.
I get you, but...
We have made a choice, whatever the choice was. Now, after the choice has been made, services need to be delivered to the people. Yes. What services are being delivered to the people? And I'm giving you an example of these people in the grassroots who are affected by floods. I'll give you further another example that last year, at the end of last year, we had the weatherman coming out, the Met Department come out and say we are going to have very heavy rains in Kenya, and it's going to be El Nino. It's going to be for this long period of time. And at that time, it was so sunny. People were praying for rain. It was horrible, but our leadership came out to actually say that there is no such thing, that the rains are not coming. So now, when we have things that are functioning, what would have been likely is this: we would have prepared for this. We have long rains. We would have built dams. We would have built gabions. We would have had water catchment, which we will use later for electricity, for agriculture. 100%. It hasn't happened. Even now that the rains have come, this hasn't happened. And you will hear in the next few months, we have drought. We don't have water. We don't have electricity because the dam, the dams are dry. Yes, so it is accountability. So if we are electing you, we want you to do something. You're going to tax us highly. We're not, it's fine. Taxes, it's bad for you to pay such high taxes. But if you're paying high taxes and your roads are good, your children go to good schools without pay. You're seeing health facilities. You can get a doctor. We don't have a problem, but there are no doctors in the hospitals. The schools.
They're back, by the way.
No, that's another story. The schools, the curriculum, the CBC curriculum, people don't even know what is supposed to be done. The teachers have not been trained. We are having floods. There's no, then there's a problem. Then you cannot say that you're taxing.
My point is, 100%, I agree with you. All those are issues that we're going through right now as Kenyans, but we are going through them as an independent country because our leaders are pushing us in that direction. I want you to hold that there and just guys, do you know that this year, as of 2024, Africa's population is 1,490,855,277. This is according to Worldometer. One other fact that it's very important to know that our GDP, they say Africa is a continent of the future. Our GDP last year was around 3.2, 3.4, and this year we're expecting a growth of 3.8. And they say it's not going to stop there. It's going to be on an upward trajectory up until 2025 when it's going to be measured again. And this is according to International Monetary Fund. So Africa, man, this is the future. Not just the future, the present and the future. Hold it there. Going to be back in few seconds, not even a minute, in few seconds. Hold it there. Going to be back.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation. Verse of the day.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإن طائفتان من المؤمنين اقتتلوا فأصلحوا بينهما فإن بغت إحداهما على الأخرى فقاتلوا التي تبغي حتى تفيء إلى أمر الله فإن فاءت فأصلحوا بينهما بالعدل وأقسطوا إن الله يحب المقسطين إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome back. My name is Faisal Kassim and this is the Live Real Talk. We are talking about Africa Liberation Day. Are we really independent? That was the debate just before we went for a break. And I'm telling you, where Sefu and Levi, guys, we are all Kenyans. We are all Kenyans, we are all Africans, we are all on the same side. Eh? Anyway, so Sefu, I was saying,
Yeah.
I mean, I heard your point about,
you did.
for example, talking about the policies that are not working, talking about the health facilities that sometimes may not be as you wish or as all of us would wish. But my argument is all that is happening in an independent Kenya.
Yeah, Faisal.
There is no white man who is leading us and a foreigner. Actually, William Samoei Ruto is Kenyan.
Yes.
Rigathi Gachagua is Kenyan.
Yes.
The ministers are Kenyans.
Yes, Faisal, and that's why we called it neo-colonialism, because, you know, previously it was the white man who was here, and we could see their face. So we wanted them out. But what is happening now is that, you know, the white man is here, but you cannot see them. So maybe they have a black face, but you cannot see them. How is the white man there? When you look at the amount of borrowing that Kenya is doing from, you know, the IMF or the World Bank, and we can see that the borrowing is crazy. And of course, this money is being paid by taxpayers. We can see, for example, as I was talking about the floods and all these people who have not been able to get any help or any resettlement. But for example, we see our president traversing, you know, the world, which is, it's very good, of course. But if you're going to traverse the world with a bill of maybe, you know, 2 million an hour, Kenya shillings, for example, now that he's in the US, he went to Tyler Perry Studios. Tyler Perry, who is not even a president, first of all, he's like, you know what, I'm not available to see you. It's my heart. Anyway, but Tyler Perry is not available. For
At least Sifavi was there. At least Sifavi was there.
Yeah, but what is that, Faisal? But the point, my question now is, for us to spend all that amount of money on such a trip, and not just this, we've seen other foreign trips that are happening. There has been a lot of alarm on the amount of trips that are taken. And there's a head of state, excuse me, of Malawi. I don't know his name, but he's the current head of state. And he banned all foreign trips in his country. And he says, even for himself, like, if anybody has to go out of the country, you have to present your budget to me personally for me to see what is this that is so important, so that the money can go back into the economy. So if you're saying this is not neo-colonialism, we have recently seen GMOs being given the green light in Kenya. There's a policy on seeds. I don't know if you know this, Faisal, it's in Parliament, that you and me cannot exchange seeds. Like me, I have this maize seed, and you have another. We cannot exchange. We can't. It is illegal. And if we do that, then we are going to get caught. Your grandmother and my grandmother in the village cannot, you know, exchange seeds. So such kind of policies honestly, that came about because we got a visit from Bill Gates, and they gave us a certain amount of money, and they said, you know, for this amount of money to happen, you know, we have this GMO company and we need to allow GMOs. There's nothing wrong with genetically modified organisms. But as Africans, and when you're talking about going back to our roots, we are used to agroecology. We have our ways of doing our agriculture that has saved us and has kept us for years on years. So really, this is neocolonialism. It is coming to us, but it's using a black face. The same way now, I'll throw a small controversial thing on the issue of Haiti. Why would it be that a black country is going into another black country, you know, to say that we're going to keep peace? Yeah, whose interest are we serving? There are people who have interest there. The United States has interest there. France has interest there, but France cannot go there, you know, for whatever reason. So they'll just say, okay, fine, which African country, you know, can go, so that they say it was black people. But there's also amount of money being given, about 300 million USD. So are those not neo-colonial policies?
I hear you, Sefu, and I want to rope Levi in. Levi, you see, I always believe when you point a finger, there are three fingers pointing back. So it's very good. Whatever you're saying is justified. But again, so this is my thought process. All this is being done by an administration that was elected by Kenyans, right? And say Bill Gates said, oh, we have a company here that sells GMO, there's nothing wrong with GMO. But Bill Gates did not hold a gun on the president's head. Say, hey, you need to accept GMO. He accepted willingly. Compared to what used to happen with the slave trade and the other colonial era where there was forced labor, does that make sense? So there's the aspect of willingness here. And this administration was chosen by us, willingly. The Kenyans, we put them into place. Now they're carrying out their policies that they told us initially in the manifesto, that they went round. They shared the document. Now they're implementing what Kenyans bought, at least the majority of the Kenyans, that put them in power. So there's the aspect here of free will, Levi. Again, do you want to say we are neo-colonialized?
Yes,
we are neo-colonized, sorry?
Yes, we are. And before I answer that, first of all, when we say that it is the Kenyans themselves who will willingly put these people into power, you know, that's also arguable, because did Kenyans really have a choice?
I need the majority of the Kenyans.
No, yeah, but, you know, did Kenyans really have a choice? Because, look, four presidential candidates on the ballot, right? But how many Kenyans had expressed willingness to run for president?
I think around 11.
No, there were 40-something, I think.
Yeah, the one who were literally like shortlisted to the final around 11. And then they finally went down to 4. Yeah, so when you look at that, you see that there's an aspect of the entire system being captured by the elite. You see? Come on. So it's a constitution we voted for. Yeah, so look, we see that Kenyans don't really have a choice. Look, Faisal, if you want to become president right now, are you able to? If you don't have billions of shillings, realistically, of course, we'd say that you can, it's your constitutional right. But if you're not a billionaire in Kenya right now, are you able to become president? So do you see, this shows that the entire establishment has been captured by the elite, by a tiny minority of people. Right now, if you want to vie for governor, for senator, for member of parliament, we know that the system has been skewed in such a way that if you lack millions, you cannot even be able to stand before people and speak. This is done deliberately. Deliberately, these politicians give people money so that they create that culture of people expecting handouts from politicians. Dependency. So that if you're genuine, if you're interested in changing the lives of people and you want to participate in the process of leadership in Kenya, you're unable to do so if you're not part of the establishment or of the elite. So you see, it's a deliberate, so I'm saying the entire system has been captured by the elite. So Kenyans also need to understand that in as much as, yes, these people are there, yes, they were elected, but really, Kenyans didn't really have a choice. These are people who captured the entire establishment.
and Faisal, Africa Liberation Day is one of those means that we use to educate also the masses. That is why we are calling out for people to come and celebrate, because during this event we are able to have, excuse me, we are able to have such debates, to engage, for the people to be able to open their eyes. That is why we invite all those who are watching to be there, if you can, Faisal.
So what are we doing on the African
Saturday.
Liberation Day that will help people, especially on the 25th, right?
Yeah.
So where are we doing it, and what exactly are we doing on this particular day to educate the masses, as you've clearly said? Because, I mean, guys, come on. The way we are trying to paint the picture, at the end of the day, it's captured by the elite, but who put the elite there?
Oi, Faisal, you're acting like you liberate,
I'm not living in Utopia. I'm living here.
Yeah.
And in 2010, Kenyans went out overwhelmingly, 63%. They say yes.
And that is one of the problems
Does
that
that
I'm
make
talking about. It's one of the problems I'm talking about. This is what
So,
I'm saying. Kenyans went out. But why did Kenyans went out? It was because of propaganda. These two people have come out. And that's also the biggest problem. Lewis is bringing it out, that it is really a two-horse race. You have two, so even during that time, ilikuwa ndizi ya uchungwa, you were given two sides, and that was it. That the people
that was
had.
5. So 2010 was green and
and red.
green and red.
Yeah,
But in every election,
in the elections, in the referendums, there were
deliberately
only
says
two.
it's-
There are only two sides. So even the options that you're given, the options that are there, what are they? It's two sides of the
Why
same
not come up with
coin.
the third force?
And that is the point. So that is
Echo-
why we are
Echo
doing
tried the
Africa
Third Alliance.
Liberation Day.
Yes, and there
In
are outside forces.
2017, I think it was this guy, what's his name? Abdul Badida, tried. We had Musalia Mudavadi. We've had Martha Karua. We've had, the recent election, we had Wajakoya.
And that's why we also have the Pan-Africa Socialist Alliance. We have these people who are doing things differently, and we are calling people to come. So on the 25th, excuse me, which is going to be on Saturday, the program starts at 1 p.m. It's going to be at the Professional Center, which is on Harambee Avenue, just opposite the Parliament buildings.
Parliament Road.
Parliament Road. So it's going to be there. Usually, it's going to be on the second floor. We are going to be having a documentary on Africa, the previous Africa, and for us to be able to discuss it. So we'll have a documentary on the Battle of Adowa, where the Ethiopians were able to fight the Italians, and actually they were not colonized. And after watching that, then we're going to have discussions relating it from then and now. Like, how come this was able to happen for the Ethiopians, and what is the significance of us? Are we able to fight these forces, and how can we do it? And Faisal, it's not us giving the answers. It is also the people who are coming for us to be able to sit together in the same way we did back in Africa as a community, to sit and come up with decisions and conclusions that are ours, and also send them back to the people. We are going to be having a panel discussion on the topic, which is Africa's dignity and Africa's sovereignty, and smashing settler colonialism and imperialism. So on Africa's dignity, we're speaking about issues of social justice, issues such as water, health, education, across. And the sovereignty of Africa, are we really free? On the issues that we're having now of the Sahel states, on the issues that we're having, the wars we're having in Sudan, in Congo, even in Palestine, what is the root cause of these wars, and how can we emancipate ourselves? Because just because it's happening to them does not mean that we are any different.
Safe,
So we are going to be having Faith Kasina from the social justice centers. We'll have Kinuthi and Dongo from the left parties. We're going to be having Musa Ababa from the Pan-Africanism organizations from Sudan, and they will be part of the panel, and they'll be discussing and delving deeper into this. And after that, we'll have a plenary session.
Beautiful.
Where we have conversations from the people. We'll have different artists who will be coming in, to sing, to do poetry, to do spoken word. We are going to be having the social justice traveling theater, and they will be doing something there, and it's going to be a very lively and interactive session.
Really looking forward to that. I mean, the way you've explained it, wow, I could only imagine, I could picture it. The pictures were moving around my head right now.
And you're
they were just
welcome,
sliding.
Faisal.
Wow, thanks so much. I'll definitely make a point to be there.
Yeah.
Definitely make a point to be there.
Yeah.
And so beyond that, Lewis, sorry, you know, French.
Yes, yes, of course.
Lewis, beyond that, beyond the 25th of May of every year, then what other efforts are put towards liberating the African mind, emancipating that mind? What other efforts are put in place?
Yes. So first of all, one thing that we usually insist is that people try to join organizations that are working towards achieving this political consciousness and that are working towards this liberation that we want to achieve as the African people. So the first thing that will continue to go on is that organizations that have come together in this banner of Pan-African Socialist Alliance, in this banner of Organizing Committee of African Liberation Day, these organizations will continue to recruit even more and more people, will continue to conduct political education in various ways. Political education is conducted through study. People share material and study through documentary screening like the one that Sefu was talked about, Battle of Adwa, very interesting documentary on how African people fought and resisted colonialism, through debates, through skits and plays, through artistic expressions. So these are activities that will be going on in different communities throughout the year as we continue to talk about Africa's liberation. So African Liberation Day, its commemoration, is usually a culmination of all these activities that have been taking place throughout the year. Okay. And remember, in the course of the year, there's also other important days that we continue to commemorate. For example, there's also Pan-African Women's Day, which is commemorated every 31st of July, which is really a continuation of the conversation that we shall be having in the African Liberation Day. These days we commemorate like the Land and Freedom Day or the Mau Mau Day, also known as Mashujaa Day in 20th of October. There's Kimathi Day, which usually happens on 18th of February. All these are...
Pinto Day, and all these we celebrated. We had a Hands of Haiti event, we had Piogama Pinto Day, we had Kimathi Day, we had Karim Induthu Day. We had days where we celebrate...
we have Faisal Day on the 20th of April.
That's your birthday?
Nice.
So yeah, so we have all these different activities that we do throughout the year. It's not just African Liberation Day. We had solidarity with Palestinian people, which is something that is also ongoing.
Yeah, it's continuous.
Yeah. So we have a myriad of activities over the course of the year.
Wow. Wow. Well, guys, I'm impressed. I'm honestly impressed, and there's one thing I'm really looking forward to is a mentally liberated African community.
Yeah.
Not Africa as a continent, but the African community that is mentally liberated.
Yes.
Then and only then we can talk about the African continent.
Yes.
By African community, you mean the people of
The
African
people.
descent
Even
across
those who are
the world,
in the diaspora.
Yes.
Even those who are in the diaspora.
Yes. And that's what Pan-Africanism is all about.
Yes.
It's all about the liberation and freedom of all Africans,
Again,
wherever
who's
they
an
are.
African?
Huh?
Who's an African?
A person of African descent.
Someone can decide to identify as an African.
Sorry?
Someone can decide to identify as an African.
Somebody who is Caucasian?
Doesn't matter. Decides to identify as an African. Say, maybe I identify as in my heart of hearts, I believe I'm African. So.
I know nowadays we have a lot of things like someone I can identify as a table.
Yeah,
you know, I can
so
say.
don't call me a he. I'm a he, she. Yeah. So
When we talk about African, we talk about black people, and we talk about black people in the African continent and those in diaspora. So all people, all black people across the world, mixed race, black, yes. In
there
America,
are people who are not
in
necessarily
Oceania.
black. They are clear white. You can see them. This is a white dude.
No,
I say,
they're
I'm a
not.
Kenyan. I'm African.
Even our liberation will liberate even those people who are, as long as they live in the African continent, liberation is for the people.
Yeah.
So even they will be liberated when Africa is liberated.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank
Thanks so much,
you.
Sefu. Thanks so much, Louis. God bless you guys. God bless you guys.
God bless
you. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you guys on set.
Thank you
Vibes
so
and
much.
vibes. Next
Thanks for
time,
having us.
let's make it a point.
Yeah.
Next time we're having this show, we're doing African.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
we're
Right?
going to do
We're doing
African.
At least that'll be a first step towards liberating Africa.
But it won't be a year from now. We've said that now it's going to be like, it won't just be Africa Liberation
Yeah,
Day,
so next time we're discussing anything
anything, we are going to be wearing African.
right?
Yeah.
It's a deal? And you guys are our witnesses. Next time we're discussing anything Africa on this set with Sefu and Louis, we're going to be rocking proper African. I mean, amazing discussions. I'm personally looking forward to Saturday. And I hope you will be there. I am looking forward to seeing you there. Let's go and learn about our roots. The first question I asked my amazing guests in the studio tonight: do they feel that the current African generation, like Sisi Tuko, are we connected to our roots? If yes, what's connecting us to our roots? Let me ask you, how frequent do you speak your mother tongue? How frequent? What about your kids? What's their first language? Their mother tongue? English? Swahili? Arabic maybe? I don't know. You know best. So how well are you connected to your roots? How African are you? Who are you? Are you really African? Come on, guys. Let's show up on Saturday on the 25th of May and let's learn about our roots. We cannot run away from this. My name is Faisal Kassim and this has been the Live Real Talk. Thank you so much for keeping us company. See you next week, same place, same time. Oh, for next week, see you on Saturday.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.